After declaring to stay, Sorata and Mashiro end up studying together, where it's revealed that she has scored 0 on all her exams, including English, even though she lived in England. The reasoning? Her manga deadline. As such, Sorata asks Jin for help with teaching her, but Misaki appears as well, revealing that makeup exams are usually the exact same practice exam. However, Mashiro reveals that she already memorized all the practice exam answers like a true prodigy. The next day, Sorata escorts Mashiro to school, and as he waits, he encounters Nanami, who gets hungry, so Sorata gives her his Baumkuchen. After Nanami left, Mashiro finishes her exams by getting all perfect scores. They then head home only to encounter an overworked Nanami, so he explains why she works extremely hard. Suddenly, Mashiro tells him to call her by her first name, leading to another misunderstanding. As such, Nanami has decided to move in over to Sakura dorm to see what's up with the two. Sorata then panics as his Mashiro duty will now be exposed to the world. However, Jin tells him to just get into a relationship with her, but his advice gets completely rejected. Luckily, Mashiro came up with another plan, this time to destroy Nanami. Regardless, he refuses all the alternate plans and decides to go through with his original plan. The following day, Nanami began her move-in, and she was greeted by Misaki, who began opening Nanami's boxes, where she purposely scattered Nanami's undies. Suddenly, Mashiro came in with her clothing stained by tea. As such, Nanami immediately drags Mashiro back to her room to change clothes. She's then surprised to find out that her room is actually a complete mess. As such, Sorata got the chance to explain Mashiro's problem, causing Nanami to insist that she will now take over Mashiro's duty. After taking over the job, Nanami tries to teach Mashiro how to do things like laundry, cleaning, but none of them succeed. In the evening, Mashiro asks Sorata to fold her undies, but Nanami rushed in and took all of them. Regardless, Nanami learns how hard Mashiro works for her manga and is impressed greatly with it. Meanwhile, Sorata keeps working on the game competition, where he also asked Ryunosuke to review his project. The result wasn't too bad, but it still needed lots of improvement before it can be submitted. Later, as Sorata sleeps, Mashiro suddenly barged into his room and began sleeping with him. He then decided to come out his room only to find Nanami sleeping in the dining area, who proceeds to accidentally punch him due to her mistaking him for a thief. Nevertheless, he warns her to not overdo herself, only for take it the wrong way. Thus, she pushes Sorata and Jin outside so she can finish cleaning the room. Afterwards, Sorata finds himself unable to sleep in his room due to Mashiro, but he realizes that it's basically morning already. Nanami then wakes up unable to find Mashiro, only to find her inside Sorata's room. She then wakes her up and proceeds to scold her. Eventually, they find Sorata as well, and she scolds him too. Afterwards, Nanami does laundry, but Mashiro tried to pour the detergent with the cap still on. Regardless, Mashiro's glare hints to Nanami that she prefers it when Sorata is on Mashiro duty instead. Later at school, Nanami together with some friends begin practicing for the upcoming audition. And now inspired by Mashiro, she tries to exert more effort. Meanwhile, Sorata and Jin are busy discussing how Nanami has been pushing herself too hard. Regardless, Sorata heads back to his room where Misaki suddenly popped out of nowhere, asking what he's talking about. However, she begins to break down, so Sorata asks what she really wants with Jin, where she finally reveals she wants to be his girlfriend and asks for help. The next day at work, Nanami again suffers from overwork. Meanwhile, Sorata's cat accidentally causes him to submit his game entry, where he also falls to the ground after Mashiro calls him. As such, he rushes out and finds out that Nanami is sick from all the stress, yet she still tries to head to school, only for her to collapse. However, seeing how hard she has worked for the competition, the group helps attend the audition. At school, Nanami makes it while Sorata and Mashiro hide from the rain. There, Sorata remembers his promise to buy Mashiro's debut manga. Nevertheless, the audition turned out to be a complete failure, with even her cousins mad at her. She then apologizes for causing all of them trouble for trying so hard to get her to school, where she ended up failing. A defeated Nanami is then comforted by Sorata, where she begins to cry after finally feeling some relief. Back at the dorm, Sorata tells Jin and Misaki that Nanami never could not rely on anyone because she felt weakened if she did that. Nevertheless, the next morning, Nanami is shown telling her stuffed toy, Torajiru, about the events yesterday. It's then implied that she has a strong crush on Sorata. Who would have guessed? Sorata then explains how Mashiro understood her better than the rest, so now having learned of her lesson, she decides to give back Mashiro duty. Enter Yuko Kanda, Sorata's little sister. Upon arrival at Sakura, she witnesses Sorata with Mashino being sussy. Later, Yuko and Mashiro are inside Sorata's room, with Yuko acting a bit violent towards her. Sorata then calls his mother, where she tells him that she only came because she had questions about high school. Afterwards, Mashiro bluntly blurts out that Sorata is her owner, shocking Yuko with the wrong impression. Meanwhile, Misaki takes a driving lesson where she just kept on the gas pedal while ignoring the brakes, which terrified her teacher. A few moments later, Nanami returned home and finds a girl clinging onto Sorata's arm. He then hurries to clear any misunderstanding, only to make Yuko suspect Nanami. As such, she asks Nanami why she's so close to her brother. In an effort to prove that there's another guy in the house, Sorata knocked on Ryunosuke's room, but only his maid replied, convincing Yuko that this is a sussy harem house. Afterwards, the two find Mashiro, who rubs her stomach and says it's ready, again making Yuko think the worse. Later, at the public baths, Yuko is seen insecure over her chest, so she does sussy things, causing Nanami to scream, which alerts the boys. Meanwhile, at the driving school, Misaki kept on being reckless, but she somehow manages to park safely, with the visible Shiori absolutely terrified. The next day, Misaki at driving lessons didn't change at all. At Sakura dorm, Sorata now has a habit of checking the mailbox for his competition results. With nothing in the mailbox again, he returns only to find Yuko in his room, so he asks what kind of advice she needs. However, she reveals that it was an excuse to go see him. As such, he proposes a date where the other two girls decided to tag along as well. At the beginning of their date, he asks why they tag along when they're super busy. Nanami uses the "today is my day off" excuse, and Mashiro uses her editor as an excuse, who suggested that she lives summer to the fullest. Regardless, they visit a park and they also reach a shrine to pray. While leaving the shrine, the group accidentally split in two, where Nanami suddenly tripped on the stairs. Luckily, Sorata catches her, causing her to blush. Meanwhile, Mashiro, who was stuck with Yuko, stopped in front of a candy apple stand where she suddenly picked an apple, ate it without paying. Eventually, they got tired, so they sat around. Eventually, Sorata does find them, but the candy stall owner demanded payment for Mashiro's apple. The next day, Yuko left for home but announced her intention to study at Suku so that she can be with her brother. Meanwhile, Misaki somehow managed to get her driving license, while Shiori continues to regret having her as her student. The next day, Sorata finds out he passed the first round of the game competition, but he must now do a presentation on August 31st. He also gets an unknown letter, making him wonder who wrote it, but suddenly Mashiro came in and asked what love is. He then tried to explain, but Mashiro explains that Ayano told her that if she were to write a romantic novel, she needed to feel love. Thus, she tells her that she will have a meeting on the same day as Sorata's presentation, so she offers to help, but he declines since she has her own meeting. Soon after, Nanami barges in and tells Mashiro to get out, since she has no pants on. Outside, she asks Nanami if she understands what love is. Regardless, back in his room, Sorata asked Ryunosuke for advice on how to give a presentation, where he tells him to just put on a suit and practice. Now having no idea what to do, Jin happily offers help. The next day, Sorata practiced on the group, but it was so boring he actually put Mashiro to sleep. He then promised to redo his presentation, but while rewriting, Mashiro entered his room and started to draw where she says he might understand love better in his room. Eventually, after a couple days, Sorata finally settled on his final presentation. On the big day, Mashiro came up and gave him a lucky charm, which impressed him, so wished both of them good luck before leaving. Sorata then meets Kazuki, one of the judges. Unfortunately for him, Kazuki gives him a question which he's unable to answer, leading to his game not being accepted. Back at home, he begins to cry, and he held himself back when he encountered Mashiro. Now still sad, he asked her to continue drawing as he needed some company. However, Nanami was listening to their conversation the entire time. Meanwhile, it's revealed that Jin and Misaki plan to have a pool party to welcome Nanami. At the same time, Sorata tried to throw away everything related to the game competition, but couldn't do it. Suddenly, Misaki barges in through the window and introduces the pool party plan to Sorata. As such, at the pool they have some fun, and they also cook some good food. Unfortunately, the school guard interrupts them and chases them out, so they hurry and hide. Outside the school, Nanami wonders whether Sorata is sad or not, but fireworks randomly explode above them. Meanwhile, Mashiro suddenly jumps, stating that they are still being chased. After the ordeal, Sorata and Nanami talk about why he's feeling this way, where he finally realizes that the only way to stay happy is just to keep going no matter what. Back at the dorm, they continue the party by burning some sparklers. Mashiro and Nanami talk as well, where Nanami mentions that she began to understand what love is.